in case he has any concerns, he can raise them within the official structures of government. Instead of doing that, he chose to be reckless, with complete disregard of the office, of the high calling of the office that he holds, the office of the Deputy President. It will be remembered that at this particular time, the country was at a security crisis, and inflammatory remarks would have led to the country disintegrating. Inflammatory remarks would have led to the social fabric of this country tearing apart. And therefore, by such doing, I am inviting the House to find that the Deputy President did mislead the public. The Deputy President did live below the expectations of the office that he holds, made unfounded, sensational statements, and therefore, that ground should be upheld for his impeachment. Mr. Speaker, further to that, in the oath of allegiance to office, the Deputy President swore, and I quote, to refrain from directly or indirectly revealing such matters as shall come to my knowledge in the discharge of my duties and committed to my secrecy. Mr. Speaker, as you would notice in that clip, the Deputy President says that he has been told in confidence. Mark the words, I have been told in confidence by officers of the following. And while aware that he took an oath not to divulge information that comes to him in secrecy, he went ahead and divulged that information. I'll be inviting this House to find that the Deputy President breached his own oath of allegiance to office. And a person who breaches his own oath of allegiance to office is not fit to hold the office of the Deputy President. I therefore urge members to find that this ground has been proven to the required standard and uphold it for impeachment. Under ground 9, Mr. Speaker, on gross misconduct. Gross misconduct has been defined as the dereliction of duty in the Black's Law Dictionary. Gross misconduct has been defined as the dereliction of duty, unlawful or improper behavior. Mr. Speaker, we have alleged that the Deputy President did breach Article 151B of the Constitution in his utterances against the National Intelligence Service, and that is incompatible with the high calling, dignified status, and the discretion required of the office of the Deputy President. And because I had laid basis in the foregoing ground, I wish to urge members, using the same evidence that I've adduced above, to also find that ground number 10 is also proven. Ground number 9, that is. On ground number 10, gross misconduct on insubordination. We have the evidence of Mercy Wanjau in the form of an affidavit that cabinet makes decisions and the Deputy President defies. I have video clips in Nyanza where the President did direct. In fact, he said it is primitive for people to say that certain sections of the country cannot receive development by virtue of how they voted in the last elections. And then immediately thereafter, the Deputy President repeated his shareholder Kenya government company utterances, directly contradicting the President. In that arrangement, Mr. Speaker, I am submitting that that is insubordination, and the evidence that we have tendered in the interest of time on record is enough to prove that ground, and members should be able to approve that the Deputy President, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, has been undermining his boss, has been undermining cabinet, and therefore is guilty of the offense of gross misconduct in terms of insubordination. Mr. Speaker, I come to a very interesting last one, which is that the Deputy President has breached Article 151B and Section 34 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. Mr. Speaker, in my bundle of evidence, I have the affidavit of Dr. Andrew Muller, which I would want displayed. Dr. Andrew Muller, Mr. Speaker, was the acting CEO of the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency. Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, through funding of the Global Fund, did advertise for a tender for purchase of mosquito nets to benefit Kenyans. The tender was worth about 3.7 billion. In this affidavit, Mr. Speaker, Dr. Andrew Muller avers that when he came to KEMSA, and Mr. Speaker, the witness is before the House, but because this is not the trial chamber, we will not lead him in evidence, nor will he be cross-examined, but is ready to be cross-examined when we go to Senate. He avers that when he was appointed as an acting CEO of KEMSA, and he came to office, he found the tender ongoing, and one day, the Deputy President called him, threatened him, so that he could release a bid bond. In his testimony, he says that a company that was being fronted by the Deputy President, if you allow me just to get because this is important, at page 70 to 76, at page 70 to 76, of my bundle of documents, Dr. Andrew Muller avers that His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua called me from his mobile phone. The number is provided. On my mobile phone number, the number is provided, and pressured me to surrender to his proxy the original bid bond submitted by Sobika Impex for the above tender. He told me that he would send a proxy to collect the original bid bond. He goes further to state that Dr. Ikuno Rigathi, who is a son to Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President, called me and sent me a WhatsApp message from his mobile phone number, which is provided, claiming to be acting for and on the instructions of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. He asked for Sobika Impex Private Limited's original bid bond for the above tender, which he said His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua was trying to collect from KEMSA. Annexed here to and marked AM1 are the screenshots, and I would like them, they are already displayed on the screen, of those messages. He goes further to aver that Dr. Ikino Rigathi, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua's son, sent a one Ogora Wilson Okulo of national identity number that to collect the original bid bond submitted by Sobika Impex Limited. He concludes by saying that given the status, power, threats, influence of the people involved in the interference with the investigations and the cover-up of the irregularities surrounding the procurement of treated mosquito nets, I was constrained to surrender the original bid bond to Ogora Wilson Okulo. In short, members, please listen to this. In short, I was caught in a tricky situation, as there was nothing much I could do as a junior government officer against a sitting Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, this allegation was admitted by none other than the Deputy President yesterday, live on his interview or live on television. He did confirm that, yes, he called Dr. Muller. He also confirmed that he called him in relation to a bid bond. And he did confirm that the company called Sobika, the local representative of Sobika, is a company called Crystal. And the company called Crystal is owned by none other than Rigathi Gachagua and his children. And therefore, there was a direct conflict of interest that the Deputy President, that the local representative of Sobika, which is an international company registered in India, is a company owned by the Deputy President. And the Deputy President is making a call regarding a tender to a junior government officer. I wonder how many other calls he has made. But I do not need to belabor this point, because none other than the Deputy President himself did admit on live television yesterday that he did make the call. It was in relation to the bid bond, and therefore I urge members to adopt the evidence of Dr. Andrew Mulwa as the truthful and factual evidence, exhibiting that His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua did interfere with the tendering process and also did interfere with the investigation into the same. His Excellency the Deputy President did inform the country falsely that no money was lost. Mr. Speaker, you would know that this tender was funded under the Global Fund. And the Global Fund, through letters that we have exhibited, did cancel this funding. And therefore the Kenyan people lost up to 5 billion Kenya shillings and as well a relationship with the Global Fund, which is a major partner in our health sector. And therefore to allege that no money was lost is false, because the Global Fund did cancel the tender, and also it affected our relationship in terms of funding from the Global Fund. And we had to do a lot of diplomatic work, going to WHO, going to Geneva, in order to restore our relationship with the Global Fund. Mr. Speaker, lastly, members, I have rushed through the grounds because of the time allocated. I have endeavored to provide evidence that all the 11 grounds that are proposed for the impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua are merited, and there is enough evidence. The work of this chamber is to examine whether prima facie there is a case. The trial chamber is the Senate. And therefore I want to plead with members of this House. It doesn't matter whether you signed the motion or you did not sign the motion. I have endeavored to persuade each one of you individually that this country requires a serious leadership. And His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua is not part of that serious leadership. I have endeavored to persuade each one of you that this country requires leaders who can respect the rule of law. This country requires leaders who can respect the Constitution. And His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua is not one of them. And therefore I take this time to implore on each one of you, besides our political persuasions, to realize that we want the best for our country. This is the country that we shall bequeath to our children. And if the country is destroyed by reckless leaders like His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, there will be nothing to bequeath our future generations. And therefore persuade each one of you, please vote with your conscience, put Kenya first above your politics when you come to vote. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, members of Parliament, if you listen carefully to His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, and I did say at the time of giving my notice of motion, I have nothing against him as a person. But I was perturbed yesterday because His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua did insult members of Parliament. He insulted the intelligence of members of Parliament. Yes. There are members here who are senior lawyers. There are members here who are senior accountants. There are members here who are teachers. There are members here who are accountants. There are members, all of us are respected in our societies. The people of Kenya have elected us to exercise a constitutional mandate in this country.